Okay, this video we're talking about different things to work with terms, combining like terms and basically distributing. So we'll get through first the first part of distributing. Distribution is like here we say we have a number on the outside and then we have pieces on the inside. Now order of operations says for something like this 3 and 8 can be combined. So we have 2 times 11. So the 3 and 8 become 11. We say, well, that's easy. That's this 22. Distribution says we can take this 2 and apply it to the 3 by multiplication and apply it to the 8. So then we have 6 plus 16. All I did was double the 3 and the 8. If you add those together, you also get 22. Notice you get the same answer. And we could do the same thing here. So let's go ahead and jump down to here. Now, the same thing applies when we have variables. So we could say 2 plus 6 is 8, and if we multiply that by an x on the outside, then we could say that's simply 8x. Okay, or you could distribute. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times or 6 times x is 6x. And since that they're both x's, we could say that's 8x. So again, we combine like terms. Now we see that a lot of times in situations like this, where notice the x and the 12 cannot even combine. So the only proper way to do it is the distribution way. 3 times x is 3x, and then 3 times 12 is 36. And you put the plus sign there. The key is you do it to every single term. So I'm going to highlight the terms here. Here and here, here and here. Terms are separated by plus and minus signs. Okay, so that's what you're distributing to. Okay, so once you go ahead and try this one down here, number 5, that'd be a good one to try there. Okay, combining like terms. So let's take a look here. What are terms? Terms are parts of the expression that are added together. So notice the addition signs, and there's a term, then we have a plus sign, a term, plus sign, and a term. Now, plus signs can be negative signs. Negatives are the same thing as plus signs, this in the opposite direction. So here we have 3 terms. Coefficients are the part of the term that is the number in front. So in this case, -1's the coefficient, 2's the coefficient, and 8 down here. It's the number of x's, okay? So it's the number portion. And like terms are terms that are similar, that have the same variable portion. So in this case, I'm going to highlight with a box. X, X. So those two are like terms, and the key is we can combine those. -1x plus 2x is +1x. So we can combine those. We cannot combine it with this 8. Okay, so let's take a look at an example here. So when I look at this here, I say, okay, there's 4 terms. I'm going to highlight them here real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4. They're separated by plus and minus signs. And I say, okay, which terms are similar? The x's are similar, so -2 plus 6 is 4x. And then -8 plus 5 is -3. Okay, so I can combine those as well, because they're similar as well. So let's take a look here at some examples. So the first thing I'm going to do is go through and highlight the terms that are the same. Okay, so I'm going to say, okay, the x's go together and then the numbers go together. In this case, x squareds go together and the numbers go together. Here, xy, so those are the same, and then number. Here, the y's are the same, number. Okay. And then down here we have y squared, number. Okay. Notice in this one they're all the same. They're all xy's, xy. So these are like bananas. 6 bananas minus 11 bananas plus 2 bananas minus 4 bananas plus 7. Okay. So you're going through there. So now you're going to go back and then we're going to combine and say, okay, x's go there. 13 plus 2 is 15 x's. Then we have -7 plus 8 is +1. Good. So here we have, I always like to do the largest variable first. So x squared is the biggest. 7 minus 2 is 5x squared. And again, if you want to knock them off as you get done, that's a good idea. -10 plus 5 is -5. Okay. All right, so using that example, I want you to go ahead and finish those examples there. Real good idea. I kind of highlighted the different terms. Combine what is similar. All right, so let's talk about this basic working within the term, plus minus signs, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So let's take a look here. Even though we have 2 decimals, what I want you to see out of here is a negative and a negative become a positive. And a 5.2 times 3.6, use your calculator to get that. It's some number, you know, bigger than 15. So 15 point, or it could be even 16, who knows, okay? Now when I see a division sign, I like to turn them into fractions. So that's 24 divided by -8. We have one negative. So the key is if we have an odd number of negative symbols, then the whole thing is negative. If we have an even number of negative symbols, the whole thing is positive. So we have 24 divided by 8 is 3. We have an odd number of negative signs, so -3 is your answer. Now when here we have -14, and we're going to multiply it. We want to get rid of that division and flip it. So we call this the reciprocal. So it's called a reciprocal when you flip the fraction. So the 8's going to go on top and the 7 on the bottom. And the key is we only do it to the back one, not the front one. So now, when we look at this, we look, okay, how can we combine it? Now you could go 14 times 8, put it on top, and then 7 on the bottom. But I like to reduce when I can. So 7 goes into 14 2 times and 1 time. It's always easy to reduce early. So 2 times 8 is -16. And then 1 on the bottom, so -16 is your answer. Very nice here, okay? Now again, I wanted to have you to try this one, because we have another division sign here. So go ahead and try that one here. That's a good one for you to try, okay? And now in these two examples, notice we have zeros. We have a 0 in either the top position or the bottom position, okay? If it's in the top, then the whole thing is equal to 0. Okay, and this part's okay. The whole thing is equal to 0. If it's in the bottom, then it's called undefined. You cannot have that. Undefined. Okay, and basically it's impossible. Can't do it. Okay, you can't take anything and put it into 0 pieces. This can't be done. So that's a key concept to remember as well. Okay. All right, down here again, I'm going to go through. I'm going to do these two examples, and then I'll do this one and this one. And we'll go from there. Okay, so the first thing I do is I have an even number of negatives, so the whole thing's going to be positive. And then I like to say, okay, reduce when I can. So you could say, well, that's 10 divided by 2, which is 5. Now, an easier way to do it is perhaps, hey, 2 is both on top and bottom, so get rid of them. And then 5 is the only thing left over, so +5. Okay. Over here, again, a negative, negative, make a positive. When I see multiplication like that, I'm going to change that into a fraction. So I'm going to put the 32 on top, put the 2 on the bottom, and say, oh, now it's a fraction. 32 divided by 2, put in your calculator, and you get 16. Now notice it's positive because the two negatives cancel each other out. It's even number of negatives. Same thing down here, even number of negatives. Okay, so I'll start the problem, and I want you to go ahead and finish that one. Okay. Now in this example here, notice I have 1, 2, 3 negatives, so the whole answer is negative. So when I look at this, now I'm looking at the numbers, and they're being multiplied. So what I'm going to do is reduce when I can. So I'm going to say, okay, I have a 3 on the top and a 3 on the bottom, so those are gone. 4 goes into 8 2 times. So the only thing left is 2 over 9, okay? And that's a lot easier than 3 times 8 is 24, and then on the bottom you have 12 times 9 is 108. Now, to take this fraction and reduce it, that takes a lot more math. Now, obviously, you could use your calculator, but again, we're showing you how to set these up as they are. So once you go ahead and finish this one off, number 9, and that'll be good practice. Now, multiplication, this is helpful when we do our distribution. Okay, so when I do this, the keys that I do are numbers with numbers and then letters with letters. Okay, so that's the key here. 3 times 4 is 12, and then x times x is x squared because there's 2 x's. So we're going to do that in problems like this, okay? So we're going to do 5x, doesn't change. But here, -2 times 3x is -6x. -2 times 1 is -2. I'm distributing. Same thing here, negative times x is -x. Negative times 2 is -2. Don't forget that negative out front. Now we're looking for like terms. Let's highlight the x's. 5 minus 6 is -1, minus another one is -2x. And then -2 minus 2 is -4. Okay, so that's a great example here. I'm going to do one more over here. Now notice I'm going to distribute first. So x plus 3x. Let's scroll this down just a little bit here. Plus 2 times x squared, because I distributed, and then 2 times -6 is -12. Okay. Now when I do this, I like to highlight the biggest variables. That's x squared, so that's the biggest. So I'm going to put that out front. So that one's gone. Then let's look at the x's right there. 1 plus 3 is 4x. And notice here, the 12s cancel each other out. One's negative, one's positive. So if I add them together, you don't get anything. So there we go there. Okay. In this example here, this is called like backwards distribution. So notice the 2's in the back. So we're going to 2 times f and then 2 times 3. So we have 2f minus 6 plus f. And that's okay to do. And then combine like terms, 3f minus 6. Now the key here for these last 3 problems is I'm going to highlight it and talk about all 3 at once. So I'm going to have you do one and have you do the other ones. Notice we have a 2. These are all the terms because terms are separated by plus and minus signs. Okay. For this to work, you can only do it if the 2 is divisible by every single term. It goes in there 1 time, 3 times, and 1 time. So this is really 1x plus 3 with over 1, but we don't need to show that. Okay. I'm going to do this one here too. So we have 5 goes into 5 1 time, 2 times. So we have 2x squared plus 1, that's the top, and then notice we have a negative 1 on the bottom. Whenever you divide by a negative 1, you want to switch signs. So I'm going to put a little note here, switch signs. So now we have negative 2x squared minus 1. Okay. All right, I'm going to have you go ahead and try this problem on your own.